Many people suffer from test anxiety, and placement tests in college and university admission requirements often mistake a student's cognition and comprehension level due to their test anxiety interfering with performance and test scores, inaccurately representing their understanding. My name is Emily Sargent, and today we're going to be talking about admission testing anxiety and how it interferes with performance. What I'm showing you right now is my math ACT score that I took in 2018. It was a chilly day in December, and I was so nervous. I was already starting to feel my stomach ache and agony that awaited the anxiety of taking this test. And I remember discussing with my friends how nervous I was, and that only by default made me more nervous. I remember hearing the clock tick, 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 and then I remember penciling in every answer thinking, is that right? Am I understanding this? Maybe I should change it. And then I remember my score and wondering how my peers had done so much better than I had done when I had been taking advanced courses since my freshman year in high school. As you can see from the graph here by ACT.org, when a student tests within the same range as me, they have to add more courses to their course outline so that they can eventually take the necessary prerequisites for their major. My advisors explained this to me throughout my college career. In my case, I had to take several math courses so that I could be at the same comprehension level as my peers in my major, even though my test anxiety was much to blame for my score. A research article obtained from ACT.org states that test anxiety tends to be greater when tests are used for evaluation, as in college admissions testing, rather than formative or developmental purposes. Forbes also touched on this early last year in 2020, posing the question as to whether or not colleges should abandon SAT score requirements after the University of California began nulling over the idea. I believe that colleges should in fact abandon such standardized test requirements and instead look at other telling measures, such as a student's high school GPA. I can back this belief with the common consensus that researchers have found at the national level, which claims that standardized test scores such as the SAT and ACT are worse predictors of a student's success in college than other measures, such as a student's high school GPA. This claim comes from statistics that state at less selective four-year public colleges, a student with a high school GPA and a middling SAT score has a 62% chance of graduation within 6 years, while a student with the opposite credentials, high SAT score but mediocre grades, has only a 51% chance of graduation. Let's examine the first reason why standardized testing should be abandoned. Standardized testing promotes more pronounced test anxiety and heightens the risk of inaccurate presentation of a student's cognition and understanding of the material. Students who already have general anxiety while testing will be more anxious taking a test that determines your acceptance into colleges. The subjectively cold and sterile environment of student testing centers, paired with the ticking of a wall clock and the knowing of hundreds of students sitting at a desk beside you, penciling in their answers, adds to already known triggers of general anxiety disorders. Walden University found that due in part to an increase in educational accountability and the frequency of standardized tests, there has been an increase in prevalence of test anxiety among students. Additionally, it was noted that test anxiety can affect a student's performance during tests. So while standardized tests pronounce anxiety, they can also pronounce social issues. Standardized tests are expensive and can be disproportionately exclusive to students who are not in minority groups or who are not lower class. The base price to take an ACT test is $60, while the SAT price comes in at around $55. When a student knows that their test has bill to foot, it adds unnecessary pressure to satisfy these requirements. But also, the person paying for this test. Students who live in low-income neighborhoods or who are of a minority race often do not have the means to afford such requirements to attend college. Additionally, the schools within these areas can fail to prepare the student for SAT and ACT testing due to systematic racism within our nation. Redlining is a great example of this. This ultimately means that students facing an unfair advantage of being white or in middle or upper class are the predominant demographic in most standard universities and colleges despite the growing national diversity. Here I'll break into why I believe the standardized test score requirement should be replaced with a student's high school grade point average alone. Forbes made a piece in 2020 titled, "It's GPAs, Not Standardized Tests That Predict College Success." I'll break into that in a second. In 2020, Nick Morrison took to Forbes to detail why grade point averages were a much more conclusive indicator of college success than standardized tests, according to new research. This research presented valuable statistics that challenge the existence of SATs and ACTs, stating high school GPAs were found to be 5 times stronger than ACT scores at predicting graduation rates, and that the effect of GPAs was consistent across schools, unlike ACT scores. Lastly, because this research found that it was inconsistent across schools, more students will have the opportunity to attend college as it's reflective of their high school career rather than a subjective test score. Let's summarize. Standardized tests are not an accurate measure of assessing a student's capacity to retain knowledge. Instead, standardized tests required for college admission should be replaced by a student's high school GPA. Now that I've walked you through why I believe GPAs should be a requirement for college admission, I would like you to sign this petition on change.org demanding the right for every person to have the opportunity to attend college, regardless of their income level or race, by replacing the standardized testing with GPA requirement. Because we should all have the opportunity to attend college. Thank you.